Alright, let's get started, shall we? So for those of you on YouTube who may be unfamiliar with what this is State of the Server. It's essentially a quick rundown of current events, previous happenings, plans for the future, that sort of thing. And this, along with the server in its entirety, would not be possible without our exceptionally generous patrons. If you'd like to be one, check out the link down below. We'd really appreciate it. But anyway, let's move on. So on today's agenda, we have last month's events with Star Control development, some brief mod issues, and scheduled downtime. In current events, we have the long-needed forms overhaul and some improved memory explosion handling, which, again, long-needed. Plans for the future, mod pack maintenance, and as always, we'll end it out with some open discussion. So, Star Control development. I reworked the backups, again. They're even faster and more reliable now. I think it's down to, I want to say, an average of like 10 seconds to completely back up the server, which is like, 20 gigs at this point. So I think that's pretty good. Of course, that brings down the time for the daily restarts significantly, so that's great. And it stores like over a year of backups automatically, which is, again, great. So then we have some various bug fixes. This is stuff like, changing timing on like how long the server can be in a limbo process before it just gets killed, and stuff like I moved the restart time back 3 hours or so, just because people are on later now for some reason. If you want it moved back even further, let me know. And then I let the dogs out, or one dog in the Discord. And it's everyone's favorite bot, the Watchdog. Or at least what should be everyone's favorite bot, because the server would be just trash without this thing. Like, seriously, it keeps everything running. Literally. But yeah, it now prints like informational messages into Discord in the server chat channel. So people can be informed as to what's happening, like why the server's down, or at least why the server's down if we know why, which most of the time we don't. But that's another story. Moving on, we have some brief mod issues. And again, the whole Watchdog keeping everything running, seriously. We had an issue with Orkana. They had some broken image asset. I think it was missing frames or something. Clients handle this fine, but servers just die. They don't need to load images, but for some reason the thing that doesn't need to load images dies, while the one that does need to load them is fine. I don't know, it's a chucklefish. I don't even try to understand it anymore. But the important thing is, shit broke, and the Watchdog fixed it. And Nemesis, the developer of the mod, was very responsive. They fixed it quite quickly, and that was actually quite nice, because most mod developers aren't that awesome. Anyway, moving on, scheduled downtime. This was pretty brief. It was on, I think, February 10th, something like that, or January 10th. Everything was taken offline. The server, forums, all of it, because we needed to restart the hypervisor. Just apply some kernel and microcode patches. And this was due to the Spectre and Meltdown vulnerabilities, because Intel has been making vulnerable CPUs for the past decade or so, which is fun. But we should be relatively resilient against these vulnerabilities now, or at least as resilient as most everything else. But yeah, current events, the well-needed forums overhaul, because yeah, our forums are currently garbage and full of spam bots and just bad. So we're replacing it with PHP BB. Some people might be familiar with that and might not be too happy about that, but you can make PHP BB pretty decent, and that's what we're going to do. Migrating user accounts has not been easy, sadly. I might be able to do it, but I might have to force a password reset for every single account on the forums, which, considering the number of accounts we have and the fact that we kind of just use a Gmail account for our mail system, we might get banned if we try and do that. So I don't know if we'll be able to persist user accounts between the two form versions. So we'll just have to see what comes from that. I'm also looking into adding a wiki. This is actually very easy to do with this software. It can be kind of a seamless experience between the forums and the wiki, same login, everything. However, someone decided to set up a wiki without really asking, and that's some loose ends that we kind of physically can't tie up if we implement our own forums, because it's on some crappy service that kind of like forces you to never leave once you set up a forum, or at least it's not easy to leave. So we'll just have to look into that and I guess deal with it when we get to it. I mean, it shouldn't be too bad, it's just some loose ends. Moving on, we have memory explosion handling. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with this. It's been an issue since 1.0, and basically it causes the entire system to lock up until the out-of-memory killer steps in and kills Starbound. So that can usually take like 10 to 20 minutes, and having the forums, server, and everything inaccessible for 10 to 20 minutes is not okay at all. So we really need to fix this. And it can be stopped if it's detected early. However, you have about 1 second to detect it that early, because after that 1 second, the entire server's resources are exhausted. So, spoiler alert, detecting and stopping this within 1 second is not going to happen, sadly. So, we need to find another way. So the main problem that breaks everything is swap, or the main problem is Starbound being a buggy piece of crap, but that's another story. The main problem that we can address is the fact that it breaks swap, or that swap causes this to be a lot more bad than it could be. Because as the memory gets filled up, it starts writing that memory to disk, and that takes a very long time and just swamps the hard drive, which in turn swamps the CPU, which in turn swamps the entire server. But if we just remove swap, we don't have that issue. So that's exactly what I did. And then systemd re-enabled it. Thanks, systemd. Really wanted you to do that. So I disabled systemd doing that and disabled swap again, and so far there haven't been any explosions. It's been, I want to say, like 2 weeks, which is kind of weird. We normally have explosions more regularly than that, but we'll just have to wait and see. If they have stopped completely, that would be amazing, but I highly doubt that's the case. So, hopefully, if they do still happen, the server won't be down for 20 minutes each time. So yeah, we'll just have to see what comes from that. And moving on, we have plans for the future with mod pack maintenance. We really need to remove mods and not add more of them, but write a book seems pretty neat. I think it would be really great for a lot of the RP aspects and that sort of thing, because you can write books. That's something that people have been asking for years, literally. So if the mod isn't complete garbage, we'll add it. However, I would like to at least attempt to remove a lot of things, like vehicle mods. Honestly, you can't really use vehicles on the server. I know everyone really wants to, or a lot of people really want to, but they just don't work. They're super janky, and they cause a ton of lag. And at this point, I think they just cause more harm than good. So it might be beneficial to just remove them, if that's possible. I would like input on this, so if you really don't want your vehicles taken away, let me know. But also, if you're indifferent, or you would like them to go away, also let me know. That would be good to hear. There's also the small miscellaneous mods. A lot of those can just go. Like, I think Terraria weapons in particular, nobody uses it, and it's kind of crap, so we can just get rid of it. Stuff like that. And Valkyrie profile. This mod, debugging stuff in the server's logs is hard enough, but when this thing generates 2 gigs of errors since we installed it, that makes it so much worse. I can't even describe how bad it gets. So, I'm getting rid of it, It's not going to be around any longer because I'm gonna go mad if I have to deal with it anymore. So that's the thing. And yeah, I guess that's about it. So normally we would have some open discussion here, but it looks like no one else was able to join today because it is like Sunday night. So, but that's more my fault and work's fault. Oh well. If you would like to join me in future State of the Server hangouts, which will normally be on Saturdays of every month, the first Saturday, feel free to check out the Patreon link down in the description. Should be pretty straightforward from there. And until next time, I hope you all have a good one.